It feels like it's bordering on a burlesque costume, or maybe just Western Gothic.
Lizzie McGuire, you are an outfit repeater.
Hey guys, welcome to the third episode of my Style Versus series. Today I'm comparing outfits that are yin dominant to outfits that are yang dominant. And to do this, I will be creating 3 outfits for each, comparing them across a variety of situations. Before we begin though, I do want to define my terms. So you may hear me use yin and yang interchangeably with feminine and masculine. What I'm referring to are the characteristics of the clothes. I found a really good graphic on Pinterest that I think breaks this down really well that I will put on the screen somewhere. So typically what I mean if I refer to an item of clothing having yin characteristics is lighter or brighter colors, soft, lightweight fabrics, small ornate details, ruffles, that kind of thing. And usually what I mean when I'm referring to yang characteristics is darker and bolder colors, stiff and more structured fabric and garments, usually less ornate detail, more bold or graphic elements. So I'll point out these things as I go along, and hopefully it'll be more clear why I've chosen one item or another to represent yin or yang, and I might interchangeably use that with feminine or masculine. Again, I'm just talking about the design elements of the clothing. So I hope that makes sense. And I guess we'll just jump in and start with round 1. For round 1, we're starting off with the most casual scenario. For this, I usually go with hanging out at a friend's house, something where a t-shirt and jeans would be totally appropriate. So this is what I have for the yin dominant option. Now this is yin dominant for me in my own personal wardrobe. I know for some people this probably isn't enough. So as you can see, overall, a lighter color palette. I went with the lightest wash of jeans that I have, a lighter brown sandal, an ivory top. And one thing I love about this top is that it does feel very feminine, but not in a way that overwhelms me, because I do have a very yang dominant frame, but I just really love feminine clothing, especially like hyper feminine stuff. I love ruffles and frills. I think they're beautiful, but they don't typically work for me. This gives me just a little bit of that without going overboard. And it has the smaller details down the front with the neckline and the buttons. I am obsessed with tiny buttons. I love them so much. But since it's relatively simple overall, I feel like I can get away with it. I went with a lighter colored handbag as well. I realized most of my bags are yang dominant because they're more boxy and structured, but it at least has the lighter color, so I think it works. And it's small. Yeah, I guess most of my handbags are angular, but they're small, so I guess it's kind of balanced. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is very squeaky too. Okay, I also saw something recently that said exposed ankles and wrists is a feminizing characteristic in an outfit. I can't remember where I saw that, but basically if you have like a blazer or a jacket, if you cuff it to expose the wrists, or have pants that are cropped slightly to show the ankles, that is a feminizing characteristic. That's the terms that they use. So I think that kind of works for the pants too, the fact that they're slightly cropped. I'm a little bit tired of slightly cropped everything. Like, why does everything only have a 27 inseam? That's insane. Can we have normal length pants again? But for this outfit it works. This is an outfit that I've actually worn before, just like on a casual day out. It's very comfortable and I like it, and there's not much else to say about it. But yeah, I like this a lot. This top especially is definitely going to be one of my favorites and most worn things this summer. So this is the yin option. Let's move on to the yang dominant option. For the yang dominant option, this is what I went with. I know all black might be a little obvious, but I wanted to make sure that the outfit felt very bold and assertive, whereas the previous one felt more delicate and reserved. So the primary yang element that I'm playing with here is the boldness of the colors, with it being all dark and black, but also having the contrast with the bright red and tying that in with the red Converse. I always think it's kind of fun to take a small element of color from one item of clothing and tie it into another, but not like in an overbearing way. Like if my whole shirt was red, I don't know if I would go with the red Converse, because that's kind of like too much. And then again, for my bag, it is small, but it's a very structured, stiff material. And actually just overall, these materials are a little more structured than the previous outfit. And this as well is something that I have already worn and feel quite comfortable in. I can't really say if I like one over the other. It kind of just depends on how I feel, you know, one day to the next. Overall, this does just feel more bold and assertive and masculine in its presentation versus the previous outfit. I can't really say which one I think wins though, because I like both. So I guess we'll just move on to round 2. By the way, if anyone was wondering, this is a terrible movie. It's not even one of those that's so bad it's good. It's just bad, like frustratingly bad. Like you had such a decent idea and the execution was so disappointing. Makes a great t-shirt though. Moving on to round 2, which is slightly more dressy. Usually for this, I go with the scenario of a coffee date, something just a little bit more dressed up. For my yin dominant option, again, I went with lighter colors, and I chose this one in particular because it's a very light floral pattern and has the ruffly sleeves and looser flowy skirt portion. And just overall, it's a little bit less structured, although it's fitting really short these days. How did I used to wear this without anything underneath? I have little girl's tumble shorts on underneath here because I can't even go like that without showing something. Shorts for me it is. My usual inclination with a dress like this is to wear my Doc Martens. Those are very much yang dominant because they're so just dark and heavy. I think these shoes also lean more yang dominant because they're very stiff and angular, but color-wise they went more with the dress and they're a little bit more delicate than Doc Martens, you know, just a little. And then overall tried to go with more stereotypically feminine accessories with the pearl earrings and then a hair scarf. If I needed a bag, I think I would go with this light blue one. So it is a bit of a bolder color. It's kind of teetering on the edge of bright versus bold, but I think it does kind of add a nice pop of color to something that is overall fairly muted, because then for an outer layer I would also go with this cardigan. So it's very just muted and soft and light. So this color is just bright enough. It adds a little pop without being too bold and contrasting. So overall, I think this outfit is okay. This is one of my favorite dresses, but this is not typically how I would style it. Usually I like to pair my very soft yin items with heavier structured yang items. So like I said, I would wear my Doc Martens with this and then probably maybe a denim jacket. I feel like maybe the leather jacket with the Doc Martens would be a little bit obvious and possibly overkill. Not that I wouldn't wear it. I think my cropped denim jacket and my Doc Martens would be typically how I would style this, so that there is that play of masculine against feminine. But for this, trying to go yin dominant, I think this is an okay combination. It's aight. Let's move on to the next one. And for my yang dominant option, hey mama, welcome to the 60s. I'm kind of obsessed with this. So I wanted to go with something a little bit menswear inspired, which is why I went with the sweater vest, but I didn't want to pair it with trousers. I felt like that would be too obvious. I just really wanted to try it with a skirt. And it ended up in this very wonderfully late 60s looking getup that I freaking love. So my yang elements here obviously would be that it is overall slightly darker color palette. The black sweater vest and the skirt are both a bit more structured, a bit stiffer. The skirt more so is than the sweater vest. Obviously the blouse underneath is a little bit more yang, but it also has a pointy collar. And then I went with my black riding boots, which are very muddy. I need to clean them. And then I just felt like this needed a hat. I don't really know if this hat would be considered yin or yang, and I don't care because I like it with this outfit. I feel like this gives an overall impression that is slightly more masculine than the previous option, and I really am digging this. I love this combination. How have I not put this together yet? Again though, the skirt is so freaking short that I have the little shorts underneath, but even those I had to pull up. Why did I make this so short? I think for round 2, the yang dominant option is my favorite. I really like this. This is great. Definitely gonna be wearing this again. And our final round is the most dressy round. Usually for this, I go with something like attending a bridal shower. Not necessarily formal, but your Sunday best, although Sunday best implies formality. Anyway, so this is my yin option. Again, just like with the previous 3 rounds, I went with a lighter color palette, but for this round especially, I was able to find some items that the yin is really in the fabric themselves, more so than anything else. So for this light floral skirt, it's a very lightweight silk. Honestly, I love the way this feels. So it's a very flowy, light fabric. And for the top, this fabric actually came from a set of satin pillowcase shams, and I knew I wasn't going to use the shams, so I turned it into a top. So again, this is kind of light and drapey. I went with the taupe flats that are a bit more angular, but color-wise they go. And I also went with the lighter colored bag. And just to reiterate, I'm going for the overall feeling being yin. So with the color and the type of fabric, I think that this does create a very soft, lightweight, feminine feeling look. Which again, you don't have to wear a skirt for that to be accomplished. I could have worn this top with like a less structured, light colored trouser. I think would also create a very yin look with this top. So I do really like this. This skirt is one of my absolute favorite items. Not sure that this would be a go-to option for me though. Like I would wear this out, but I don't know if it would be my first choice, but I do like it. So let's move on to the yang option and see what we can come up with. Okay guys, the last option, the last outfit for the last round, my yang version for a slightly more dressy outfit is this. I don't know. It was a little tricky to come up with something for this. So again, I really leaned into colors as the primary yang element. I went with these heeled boots just because I really didn't have a better option shoe-wise. But I don't know, the heaviness does bring more yang to it, so I guess it's fine. The skirt, fabric-wise, is definitely more yin because it is like a more medium light fabric, and it's swishy. And this top, being that it's like a bodice top, it's a little bit more structured with the lines and the piping all around. It's not really fitting me very great. I didn't realize like how much it gapped around the bust. It feels like it's bordering on a burlesque costume, or maybe just Western Gothic. Yeah, so overall this is okay. And the belt is a little big. I think if I found a better shoe option for this, ooh, maybe black cowboy boots. But I think if I found a better shoe option for this, I think I would actually wear this. Even though it feels like it's bordering on being a costume, I do feel a little bit more like myself in this than the yin option. But I like both. I can't really pick. Anyway, let's get to our wrap up. Well, the sun hath completely abandoned me behind the wall of trees. All right, so those are my yin and yang dominant outfit comparisons. I really can't say which one I prefer because even though I have a yang dominant bone structure and that tends to be what suits me more, I do really love yin dominant pieces and playing with hyper feminine stuff. And like I said, I love to pair very feminine stuff with very masculine stuff and kind of create that contrast. So let me know which side you guys prefer more, or if round to round there was a particular favorite. I think for the time being, I'm going to pause on this series and just take a break from it for the summer because I've done the big 3 comparisons that I wanted to do, but I do have a few more ideas lined up to possibly continue this in the fall. And do let me know your ideas as well. I'm always open to hearing those if you have something that you would like me to compare in a future video. But with that said, I think that's all I want to say for this video. So thank you guys as always so much for watching, especially if you watched all the way to the end. I really do appreciate that, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Oh, hello there, son. Nice of you to join us.